Hey everybody, neoflynn here, and it is Sport Shorts time once again. First up, only had one question last week, and that was from Goffman, wanting to know my thoughts on how the Thrashers have gotten off to a fairly decent start. At the time that he made the comment, they were 6-4-2. They've since struggled a little bit, and they're now 6-6-3. If the playoffs, it's very early on, but if the playoffs were to start today, they would be on the outside looking in as they're in the number 9 spot in the Eastern Conference. But I think they're doing okay. They've got a lot of young talent, and they've played most of the start of the season without our number one goaltender, who went down in the first game. He has since come back a couple games ago, and so they're still learning the new coach's system. I think it'll take them some time to gel and learn how to play in his system. But they've shown they've got the talent, and I think, like I said at the beginning of the season, I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the cup or anything, but I do think they will make the playoffs. And a couple things I wanted to get to today, keeping on the hockey theme. Number one, if you guys missed it, I believe this was last night. I saw it today on Yahoo. They actually had it on the front page as like the first story that popped up, and I think it happened last night. I didn't check to see when the game actually took place, but that is former Thrasher Ilya Kovulchuk just totally whiffing on a penalty shot. It's actually quite hilarious if you guys can go look it up. Happened against Buffalo, and he plays for New Jersey now. And it was in the fourth round of the shootout, excuse me. That should tell you something, that Ilya Kovulchuk's your fourth shooter, not your first, second, or third, but quite hilarious as he basically dekes himself off the puck. It's really funny. And the announcers are just like, what the hell? It's like, you're paying this guy $100 million and he can't even get a shot on net in a freaking penalty shot. So, really funny. I was never that big of a fan of Kovulchuk when he was here. But it's kind of funny to see New Jersey pay all that money and look what you're getting for it. Makes me kind of happy that he went there and didn't take all the money that we were going to give him, but hey, what can you do? And the other thing I wanted to talk about, I just saw this today. I had no idea this was even in the works. They are revamping the NHL All Star Game. It's gotten really stale in the last few years. And basically, what they are doing is turning it into a fantasy draft, basically. What'll happen is they've eliminated East versus West. It's just going to be, anybody. And what will happen is, let's see, fans will vote for 6 starters, quote-unquote starters, in the All-Star Game, 3 forwards, 2 defensemen, and 1 goalie, from a ballot of 100 players from both conferences. The NHL will then name another 36 All-Stars for the game, giving each team 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 3 goalies after the draft. They weren't sure how they were going to do coaches yet, but they won't be involved in the actual drafting process. So basically, that pool of 42 players will nominate 6 of their peers to lead the 2 All-Star teams, a captain and 2 alternate captains for each side. So the players will actually pick the captains. And then on Friday, the Friday before the All-Star Game, televised draft event will be held in Raleigh, with team leadership selecting their rosters with the order determined by a coin toss. The NHL will also name 12 rookies that will take part in the skills competition scheduled for Saturday. After the All-Stars are drafted, the captains will select 6 rookies each for their teams to do the skills competition. So the one kind of sad thing is that the Young Stars game goes bye-bye, which was kind of interesting to see those younger kids get a shot in the spotlight, but it's kind of gotten stale, that particular, as well as the All-Star Game itself. It's very, very interesting that they're going this route. It'll be very interesting to see, how they do the team names. They said they're not going to go, sponsors, at least for this year, which I think is what will happen next year. It'll be the Bud Lights versus the Budweisers, or, Toyota versus Ford, or something weird-ass like that. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, and of course, it'll be interesting to see, does a captain take a teammate over, somebody better, but that's on a rival team, or, do they take a defenseman when they should have taken a scorer? It'll be very interesting to see it. It'll make for good TV, I think. So I'm very happy with the NHL, to see them trying something different. NHL suffers the stigma of being, the non-major sport. Everybody talks NFL, NBA, and nobody really talks hockey, except on this show. But it's nice to see them trying something different, and if it works, who knows? The NBA or the NFL may start trying to do it because their All Star games aren't exactly the fan favorites that they used to be. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. Getting into the picks and reviewing last week, the all upset special, I fell a little bit flat on my face, not as bad as I thought I was going to. Actually, on the college side, I went 2-2, and it's funny, the two that I lost. Well, one I'm not surprised because I was crazy thinking Hawaii and Boise State. Why did I take a 21-point spread? But I thought, hey, what the heck? Hawaii got shellacked. It wasn't even close. In fact, I don't even think they scored. And then the one that did surprise me was how manhandled Utah got by TCU. TCU just came in there, went balls out, and just destroyed them. And then the two we got right, Maryland, they lost the game at Miami, but they kept it within the spread. They lost by 6. And actually, they were leading most of the game, and Miami took it away at the end. And then Navy at East Carolina. Navy just steamrolled them, which I kind of thought might happen. Moving on to the NFL, San Diego at Houston. That was the ATM pick, and it did not work out. I don't know what happened there. Houston just did not look good in that game. Indianapolis at Philly. Indy loses the game, but they cover the spread. Chicago at Buffalo. Buffalo loses the game, but it was a push on the spread. And then Kansas City at Oakland, and Kansas City loses that one for me. So, all in all, that day we went 3-4-1. I shouldn't say that day, that weekend, bringing our total this year to 28-27-1. So we're still on the winning side of the ledger. And in an interesting twist, we go from the all upset special to the all favorite special. Yeah, I didn't do this on purpose, but it just kind of worked out that way. As I'm scrolling through the games and I'm writing down, okay, I want this one, and it just wound up that I picked all favorites this time. So kind of funny that worked out. So getting into the NCAA, we got Iowa State minus the 2 at Colorado. Iowa State gave my Huskers everything we wanted and a little bit more, and probably actually should have beat us. But that's what happens when we're running our third-string quarterback out there, because both our top 2 are hurt. But lucky for us, we came up with a big play in the overtime when we needed it, and escaped out of there with a win, and kept our outside shot at a national championship bid alive, though I don't think it's going to happen for us, even if we win out the rest of our games. I don't think we're going to get in with the one loss being to Texas. It's just, it looks even worse now considering what's happened to Texas since then, but it's just a bad loss. Colorado, a team in turmoil. They fired their coach. I don't look for them to put up much of a fight. And Iowa State showed, hey, we're a good team. They went toe-to-toe with the Huskers, so that's a good sign for anybody. And it's only a -2, so take that one on the road. Next up, Oklahoma State going at Texas, which we just talked about how bad Texas has looked. Oklahoma State's offense is insane. They were running all up and down the field when we played them, as were we in that game. Favored by 5.5 going into Austin. I don't think anyone at the beginning of the year would have saw that coming and saw Texas' season this year coming, which makes it all the worse that we lost to them. But and I am going to go ahead and put the ATM lock of the week on that bad boy. I don't think Texas has got a shot, but we'll see. I probably just jinxed myself putting the ATM's tag on it, but we'll see. Next up, Ole Miss at Tennessee. Tennessee's having a tough year. Ole Miss is having a tough year too. But I like Tennessee at home. They ran with Oregon for a half at home until they fell apart. And last but not least, Stanford at Arizona State. Stanford, since losing to Oregon, is probably looking like the best one-loss team in the country right now. They've just been rolling people. So I look for them to continue that and roll over Arizona State, even though it's at Arizona State. Going on to the NFL, Baltimore at Atlanta. That game is actually tonight here in Atlanta. And Atlanta is actually favored by a point, which I found kind of surprising. Most people see Atlanta right now as kind of a pretender in the NFL. They're not getting a lot of credit. But here's the key with Atlanta. When the Falcons are going good, they can run the ball and they pass the ball when they need to. But basically it's running game first. Excuse me. So that running game is working. They are a very hard team to beat. And Matt Ryan does not lose at home. think he's like 17-1 or 16-1, something like that. And Mike Smith, the head coach, has I think lost 3 games since he's been there at the Dome. There's a lot of talk around town about us actually getting there early because Atlanta is typically a late arriving crowd. And this is Thursday night. We're the only game on TV. It's like, get there, be loud, and let's show them what we got. So I like for Atlanta to rally behind the crowd and pull that victory out. Next up, we got Tennessee at Miami. Tennessee getting 1.5. Miami's, for some reason, they're an awesome road team and a horrible home team. So I look for Tennessee to go in there, run the ball, and pull out the victory. Next up, Detroit at Buffalo. Buffalo minus the 2.5. I said this last week. I'm going to say it again this week. The law of averages says Buffalo's got to win a game at some point. I'm going to keep picking them till they win, God. But, Detroit playing. I believe Matthew Stafford is still out. I'd have to check on that. But I just think, like I said, Buffalo's got to get a win at some point. I'm going to keep picking them. Next up, we got St. Louis at San Francisco. San Francisco is not out of this thing. They got off to such that horrible start, but they've looked a lot better the last couple of weeks. St. Louis, I don't know what to make of them. They're much like San Francisco. They're up and down. But I look for San Francisco to come out on top of that one, even though it's a 6-point spread, which is more than I would like it to be. Gonna go ahead and pick that one, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I'm enjoying doing them. It's making it fun for me to watch on Saturdays and Sundays when I get the chance to watch the games because I, show more interest in the games I pick. So it gives me a second reason to watch. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.